Live on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. It's time for Middays with Q. Now to your host, Rich Quinones.
Good afternoon, everyone. 12 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. Indeed, a Tuesday edition of Middays with you, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, Southwest Florida's newest game in town studios. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Mi hermano Angel Martinez behind the glass producing the show, keeping us on the air. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 2 o'clock straight up on the 16th of a hot July up and down the coast. As always, give us a follow. Chime in, bring something to the table, 727-858-6650. And we've got a lot to dive into on this Tuesday. And I'll tell you something else to start things off. I mean, I haven't even gone through the opening monologue, and right away I'm starting with me. Let me tell you something else. There are a couple things I took away from the world of sports last night. The first was just pre-record, please, national anthems and just get them out of the way, because that was just a friggin' debacle and a disgrace. By the way, Steve Gardner at 12:30 on USA Today, talking a little MLB as we get set for the second half of the baseball season. The other is, I love guys taking shots at other guys when you got the talking heads, which we will dive into today. And then you have this overstimulation of what's going on in the NBA Summer League and how everyone is just so enamored with what's going on with LeBron James's kid, Bronny James. I heard Pete talk about it. I heard Angel. Those guys made some great, valid points. And I'm not even going to take the contrarian view on this, to be quite honest with you. This is where I'm at. And Jonathan Marshall, very good friend of the show, I think he summed it up perfectly in a tweet, because he didn't have to say who he was dealing with when we already know who he was dealing with, or making a comment about Bronny James. And I thought it was a really astute tweet. He wrote, "The reality is at 6'2", 6'1", you better have a special offensive skill set to really make it in the league. A handle, shot, playmaking, creativity, something." Truer words were never spoken, by the way. Like this, we wouldn't be here right now if LeBron James didn't single-handedly push for his kid being drafted by the Lakers. We wouldn't be here right now if Rich Paul didn't call up all the teams in the NBA and basically tell them, if you draft this kid, he's going to Siberia, well, Australia, and we're never going to do business with you again. But that's where we're at, right? That's where we're at. And this kid now, I think, has a substantial amount of pressure on him that is not his fault. And now we're going to put him under the microscope. You know, the Jaylen Brown mentioned, from that Summer League video, I don't think the kid's a pro. So he's allowed to have that comment. Like, I don't understand why everyone is so afraid to criticize the kid if he doesn't have game. Right? You want to criticize the path. You want to criticize, what his father did. You want to criticize what Rich Paul did. Have at it, man. Have at it. But you're allowed to criticize the kid's game. It's nothing personal against the kid. Like, there's no reason why Jaylen Brown needs to walk back his comments. Right? Saying, I don't think he's a pro. Why is that a big friggin' deal? The kid was the 55th pick in the draft. He had 2 points on 1 of 5 shooting, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers in 25 minutes. He's going to struggle. He's going to struggle, right? It happens, man. 15 from 3-point range. I mean, listen, why is this such a big deal? And JJ Redick basically said, he's got to watch what he's saying. Said that James will eventually be an elite point of attack defender. Okay, developmental player. You're talking about defender. What about the offensive game? You have to have a little bit of an offensive game in the NBA. You have to have a little bit of an offensive game in the NBA to succeed. You know it, and I know it. But I think there's just unwarranted pressure on this kid, but we are still allowed to criticize. We are still allowed to have a thought, a notion, a comment, be objective. The problem is because of the kid's last name and how everything went down, we're always going to look at this kid. We're going to look at the stats, and we're going to sit there and say, you're never going to be your old man. Who is? Like, honestly, who is? You think Michael Jordan kids sit there saying, yeah, I'm going to be better than my dad? You think Bronny James is really sitting there by himself saying to himself, I'm going to be better than my dad? Those are just beyond unrealistic expectations. But we want to put pressure on him to be like his father. Never going to happen in 1,000 lifetimes. But now it's open season on the kid, and I'm going to tell you why. It's open season on the kid because when you have the talking heads on the mothership on ESPN flexing, when you have Rich Paul basically saying that if you draft this kid, we'll never do business with you. It basically LeBron putting pressure on the Lakers to draft his kid. It's unfortunate, but when we criticize him, it is nothing personal, but it's also a situation where it's like, well, listen, your old man and Rich Paul and the Lakers set you up with this. Now you got to deal with it. And I feel bad for the kid. He's going to be okay. But you're allowed to sit here and say he's not pro ready. You're allowed to criticize, right? We talk about legacy pick, like that show, Bosch Legacy. Great show. Legacy pick. The kid is going to struggle. He might not have a pro game. He might have to hone his craft in the Summer League, in the G League, over in Europe, overseas, whatever. I mean, listen, I can't sit there and say he's not an NBA player. I can't. In 4 games, he shot 7 of 31 from the field. He's missed all 15 of his three-point attempts. And I get it. The problem is we all want to be, we want to see instant gratification, right? See, if this kid's last name is Johnson, we're not even having this conversation. That's the one thing, right? But his last name is James, and it's LeBron James's son. So every highlight show, FS1, whatever, ESPN, NBC, NBA TV, they're going to have nonstop. They're going to have nonstop footage on this kid, right? Nonstop. All the talking heads, national, local, regional, they're going to have their thoughts, and you are more than welcome to have your thought, your opinion. You can break it down. You can have an analysis of it. That's fine. Again, am I going to sit here right away and say this kid's been exposed? I never thought the kid was a great player to start with, and I only watched a handful of his games. Was I enamored with the fact he was LeBron James's kid? Sure. But again, I always mention you can't just draft a kid because of who he was, and you can't waste a draft pick, and that's the problem. You can't justify LeBron's son being on the Lakers if you're going to have 3 games, 15 points, 6 of 26, 0 of 12 from beyond the arc. You can't. And again, he's a solid defender, but that doesn't necessarily equate to you deserving to be and have a spot on the roster. You can be a serviceable player. I believe you have to have some type of skill set, right? If you go back, look at all those great teams that went through the Bulls. Take, for instance, the Bulls always had, besides Jordan, Pippen, Ho Grant, Rodman, all those guys, Cartwright. Think about the specialists they had. You can go along, right? B.J. Armstrong, 3-point, good guard, creative, feisty, good on the ball defender. Craig Hodges, 3-point specialist. Steve Kerr, John Paxson, 3-point specialist. At least they had a fit on that team in the NBA because that's what they got paid to do. Knock it down from beyond the arc. That's what we're paying you to do. There has to be a fit, right? It's like in boxing, you sit there and say, well, he's tall for a welterweight. Well, you can't teach height. Therefore, if I'm tall, if I'm rangy, if I'm a $147 and I'm 6'1", 6'2", I need to rely on what? My feet and my jab and my reach. And I have to utilize that. That's how I exploit my opponent. I'm just going to pepper you and jab you to death. I'll box you from the outside. No need to get inside. I don't need that nonsense. Point being, in the NBA, if you're sitting there and you have a special skill set, if you're a great on-the-ball defender, you will have a place in the NBA. But if you're shooting 3 of 25 from beyond the arc and you have a horrible-looking shot, it's not falling, There's not going to be a spot for you. There's not going to be a place, whether your last name's James or Jordan. That's just a reality. That's just a reality of where we're at right now. And I think there's just going to, listen, we know what these networks get paid to talk about, right? We're talking about them. But I also think the problem is we have to look at what's real and what's not, right? You have to have that serious conversation. You look in the mirror, right? Yeah, that serious conversation. You say to yourself, this is working, this is not working. And the fact that, again, LeBron James and Rich Paul pretty much under the covers orchestrated this move by the Lakers, I think it might cloud some analysis from time to time. Okay, I think I'm being very fair with that. And you guys might agree. You guys might disagree. 727-858-6650. I think in baseball and football, when we look at these salaries and we look at what these guys are making, if you're making $100 million, $160 million as a quarterback, 30, 40 a year, million, you better succeed, right? We're going to attach that money to the level of play. The success or failure is out on the floor or on the court. In this case, we're looking at LeBron James's kid, not as Bronny James, but as LeBron James's kid. So then that's the reason some people think it's open season right now. And if you take a step back, the kid needs to mature as a player. The kid is extremely green. Can he make a living in the NBA, being that role player, coming off the bench, give you some minutes, do that dirty work, be that type of defender here and there? Do you remember years ago? And he was a scorer, though. He wasn't a bad player. And I have to pull it up. So just give me a second. I don't know if it's the best analogy, to be quite honest, because I'm kind of seeing where they were drafted and where they were picked. But you had a player years ago in Darrell Armstrong that bounced around the NBA, played with Orlando, played with them for a long time, right? He was a scorer. He was a free agent, but he was a gritty guy. He was an on-the-ball defender. Now, granted, this guy was a starting point guard. I get it. He averaged about 16 and 30 minutes, but I think he was a player that people looked at, wasn't going to hang around the NBA, right? Wasn't going to hang around in the NBA, but he fought tooth and nail to hang around. He was the most improved player. He was a 6-year the man. I'm not saying that Bronny James will be that, a Darrell Armstrong, right? I think he used to have the chocolates or the Skittles, whatever. What I'm saying is there's a place, perhaps not now, but down the road for Bronny James, if he shows that he can be an elite defender. He might not have the offensive skill set that people want him to have. I mean, when you're averaging less than, 10 at USC and you have a cup of coffee, it's tough, man. The G League is where you're going to cut your bones. The Summer League is going to where you cut your bones because these guys are hungry. These guys are like, I don't give a crap what's on the back of your jersey. I don't care whose son you are. I'm going to lock you down, man. I'm going to break ankles. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to look good. I'm going to expose you. He's got to understand all that. So I believe the criticism is somewhat warranted, but let's not get it twisted. Let's not just analyze this kid and rip on this kid because who his father is. And I think there's the fine line. Step back, and be objective. Step back and be objective. And the kid needs a lot of work, man. No one is debating that. And I don't think Brown needs to walk back comments. You're entitled to have your opinion. And it might not work out for this kid in the NBA. He might have to be a G League guy. He might struggle a little bit. He might eventually be that 10-day, 15-day, 20-day contract guy. He might excel overseas. Nobody knows. But the drum will be beat to nauseum with this kid. And I think a lot of it is a reflection and the perception of the narrative. Let's push. Let's get this kid drafted. Second round, 55 Lakers. Why? Because LeBron wants to play with his kid. And remember, Be careful what you wish for. 727-858-6650. All right, a lot on the table today. Steve Gardner around 12:30, second half of the baseball season. National anthem was a freaking disgrace. Did anyone watch the home run derby? Are you watching the All-Star game tonight? Right? Are you watching it? We've got some great storylines. We'll give you the picks and plays when we start back on the diamond later in the week. Also, in the 1:15 hour, I want to get into a couple of college football topics because I do find it pretty interesting. I guess now everyone's kind of laying the lumber right before the college football season starts off. So we'll have a little fun with that. We got baseball season, second half storylines. Again, I got updated odds, NL, AL, MVP. We want you guys to keep it locked into that. 727-858-6650. As always, we're just cranking up on a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. Angel Martinez behind the glass, producing the show, keeping us on the air. We are coming at you live on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town, part of the Coastal Sports Network. Original, evergreen, never duplicated. We are powered by ION TV for all the breaking news, weather, traffic alerts in Southwest Florida, including the Tampa Bay area. Check them out. Follow them on X and Facebook as well. ION TV. Armando, how are you? I heard you talking a little Bronny James, and I know Pete mentioned a little bit. I was listening to what you were saying. You were making some good points regarding, that whole dynamic of father and son and the pressure. And there he is, the incredible shrinking Armando, the pressure of being LeBron James's kid. But I think and you tell me, I think the analysts are looking at this young man not as an individual, but as LeBron James's kid, and then therefore it's open season, right? If this kid's last name is Johnson and he's a second-round draft pick, 55, 56 to the Lakers, nobody gives a flying you-know-what. So I think sometimes we have to objectively turn around and say this kid is going to grow. There's going to be a maturation process. But as I alluded to, the tweet that I read that Jonathan sent out was spot on. And maybe there's a place for this kid on an NBA roster as a defender. Offensively right now, the kid stinks. He's not shooting the ball particularly well. He'll never have his father offensive game. I think that's pretty evident. We're okay with that. But where are you when you look at this kid and when we talk about analyzing this kid? Do you feel as though we're caught up in the fact that he's LeBron James's kid and we just can't gloss over that? Or do you believe some of the criticism and the critique is warranted and it's justified?
No, it's justified. You got to figure because he's LeBron's son, some of that plays into it because of course he's going to get the pressure of being LeBron's son. At the same time too, his gameplay, and it's not that something that was hidden. They talked about it last season as he entered college, that they figured that he would not be ready, that it should have stayed at least an extended year to be able to get his skills up to where he needs to be. At the same time, that I also spoken to him about possibly doing stuff away from college. Like, obviously when the season's over, get somebody else, get another coaching staff to be able to guide you and, take your week off, whatever, however it's working in the summertime, take the time off, get yet another set of hands on you to figure out what you're doing wrong and or right, and then get you prepared again for the next college season so that you can see the difference in between the two. But I think with LeBron trying to put the pressure on, and he does have some take from it, putting that pressure on him and saying, no, I want you to come and play with dad. And also to make you better, I want you to do so. But LeBron's got to think about, LeBron was a phenom coming out of high school, going into the NBA. Bronny's not. The younger son, apparently, is the one that's going to be close to LeBron-like. That is going to be completely different from Bronny.
But here's the problem with that. Hold on. Here's the problem with that.
Yep.
Time is not their best friend. And by the way, I saw LeBron James play in high school when I was doing radio in Dayton, Ohio. And I had no idea. All I heard was this fanfare about this kid. And then you have thousands of people packed inside a gym, and you just knew he was special. LeBron might have 2 years left, maybe. And that's why they may see, the elephant in the room is I want to play with my kid. Right. I want to play with my son. I want to be on the floor at the same time with my son, and it's never been done in the NBA, right? It's very rare in professional sports. We mentioned Ken Griffey Sr., Ken Griffey Jr. Same time, give me that assist, let me have an assist to my kid for a layup or a dunk, whatever. Time is of the essence. And I think a lot of when you start to make your draft decisions or your selection based on that or the pressure, I mean, it's clear. We've said this so many times. The NBA is a players' league. LeBron James runs the Lakers. He ran the Heat. He ran the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's just the NBA, man. Period. And that's why I think it's going to be tough sledding for JJ Redick. I think JJ Redick is going to choose his words wisely. Okay. I think JJ Redick is going to be very judicious in his approach on how he coaches his kid up. I think they're going to be uberly sensitive. And I think that spells disaster, right? Right? Because I can't be soft on you because of who you are and then hard on somebody else. I mean, you're allowed to push buttons here and there and coach them up the way you deem fit. But I also think you're walking into a bee's nest, or a bee's hive, I should say, when you take this approach. Why are you so soft on that kid? Why? Because he's LeBron James's kid. So I just think it's going to be a messy situation, especially if this team struggles. But now you're going to also have to push for this kid to be out on the floor to play minutes. I mean, if this team's bad, they're going to be like, then play him. So I just think this is a big time Pandora's box that's getting opened. But to your point, I think that, I understand why this went down, but I also feel as though, what if this kid goes out and scores 25 and he's 6 of 8 from beyond the arc? Are we going to sit there now and say, oh, that kid's going to be a star? Right.
Right. Yeah, we're not. And that's the thing. It's just like, listen, I said it on my show. It's tough, hermano. Think about it. You want to make it like any other athlete, right? Whether male or female, you have a goal. That goal is to make it into any major league in sport. So then you have to beat out the competition. That's one thing that's already in your mind. The grades have to, there's so much to balance. Oh, and by the way, LeBron James is my dad. So now you're adding that weight upon your shoulders, even though you don't want to, but you know damn well, everybody who played with him in college is like, that's Bronny. He's going to get in just because his dad's LeBron, right? So that also weighs on him as well. So there's all these different elements and factors. And I feel bad for the guy because he is going to be criticized
no matter what,
right, than any other person, just because of the pressure of.
But is it more? He's going to be criticized more because he's on the Lakers. This is why I'm saying, like, as much as people wanted this to happen and you want to push for it, ultimately, when you really take a step back, the Lakers shouldn't have drafted this kid.
Correct.
They should not have drafted this kid at all. Period. And again, he could be a serviceable player. If this kid's in, I don't know, Charlotte, Washington, pardon me. I don't think, listen, I think he does need, Joey, to be honest, mature as a player. I listen, no one's saying that I'm not saying he's pro ready right now. It's pretty evident. I'm not. What I'm saying is there was this, you know how you want to do right by people? Mm-hmm. And this might come out the wrong way, but I feel this was more about what LeBron wanted for LeBron.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, I want my kid to play with me. Well, what does the kid want? Did you even ask the kid, like, hey, listen, if we do draft you, if the Lakers draft you, son, there's going to be an enormous spotlight, pressure on you. There's going to be haters out there. You're going to get criticized. You got to come to ball. You got to come to work. I'm just letting you know, if I put you in that position, sign off on it. Let me think about it, Dad. I would love to play with you. Or hell, I would love to even play against you, to be quite honest. But playing with you would be fantastic. This move, this strategic move, this was all about LeBron James. And you can sit there and say, I love my kid. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. But you had to know, if the Lakers drafted this kid and you hire your buddy as a head coach and you're already running the team, it is a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. Because it's not like this kid was averaging 25 in college, because if that's the case, he wasn't going to be a second round pick at 55 sitting there for the Lakers. It's tough, man, because I don't want this to kind of be like a Jared Payton kind of thing. Like I want, this is nothing against the kid. I want the kid to succeed. I'm not going to hate on a young kid. Go and do your thing, man. Put the time and effort in. But I just think he would have been best suited if the Lakers drafted him. Spend a year or two in Europe. Spend a season in Europe. Get your feet wet overseas. Get your feet wet in one of these other leagues. Work in the G League, and let's get that contract, and then we'll have our moment. This is so manufactured, so forced, not genuine, not legit. It's just cram it down your throat, throw it out there, and let me see sink or swim. And that's where I think the kid's going to drown.
Yep.
And through no fault of his own. All right. 12:30. Just cranking up on a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Keep it locked in right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Coastal Sports Network, as we like to say, live, local programming, starting your morning off right. Pete Shepard Show, 7 to 10, Martinez Company, 10 to 12, myself, Middays with Q, 12 to 2. Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game app. Half past 12 o'clock hour on the East Coast, 727-858-6650. Coming back on the other side, second half of the baseball season after tonight. Kicks in later this week. We'll get through some storylines, MVP races, and to pull or not to pull a starter. So we'll talk to our good friend from USA Today, Steve Gardner, coming up on the other side.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Middays with Q. Here's Q.
All right, 12:35 on a Tuesday edition, Middays with Q, and there we go, right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. Rich Quinones here, Angel Martinez behind the glass. We are powered by Coastal Sports Network, Sports Talk up and down the coast, and of course, Ion TV. And with that, we welcome in our friends. Second half of the baseball season, yeah, it gets underway. We had a home run derby last night. We got the All-Star game tonight, but our good friend from USA Today, wonderful baseball writer, voter for the MLB Hall of Fame, Steve Gardner, kind enough to join us. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing well. What did you make of the festivities last night? Did you mute yourself during the national anthem, or did you just engage yourself in the home run derby?
I thought it was I wish I could remember the sports writer that opined on X last night, who said that we expect a lot of bombs at the home run derby tonight, and the anthem was the first one.
Yeah,
and that was pretty appropriate for the
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, the baseball season, we know it's a long season, but yet it does kind of fly by when you creep into the second half of the season. Obviously, the All-Star game this evening, I still, in the heyday, 80s, 90s, that was it for me. I'm going to watch tonight. I know, obviously, you're going to watch. We got the trade deadline coming up, but I want to get to a couple of storylines, and I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things. And let's start with the AL East. My Yankees, your Baltimore O's right now, right? 1-2. Really a rivalry. Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering, who's going to fire the last bullet here, right? I mean, you look at the Yankees and we look at the lineup. They haven't played particularly well over the last month or so. They played bad baseball. You got MVP candidates. I'll get to Judge in a moment. Soto, Stanton, looks like when he's out and engaged on the field, comeback player of the year, put up numbers. And then you look at Baltimore and Henderson. But I feel as though Baltimore might have more bullets in the chamber as the season progresses. I feel as though the Yankees are still a feast and famine. When the offense goes south, the offense goes south. The pitching has been hit or miss. And to me, you have to win a division, because if you don't win a division, you don't get a week off. And then you got to turn around and you got to play in the wild card, and you got to play a team that's probably got a little juice and a little feistiness to them. So I think it's imperative for the Yankees to win the AL East. But who does win the AL East?
Yeah, it's a toss-up right now. Obviously, we saw them going into the break with a slugfest in more ways than one at the end there with that 3-game series. And I think it's going to be that kind of a race all the way to the end. And, as you said, even though the Orioles won the division last year, won over 100 games,
yep,
they exited in the first round of the playoffs. I know that's a sour taste in their mouths, and they want to improve on that. So yeah, it's winning the AL East is very important. And I think, as you said, bullets to fire, the Orioles have more because they have such a great farm system, which they can use to call up players, which we've seen, Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad and some of the other guys that they've called up during the season come up and help them for some time. Or they can use some of the prospects that maybe haven't yet debuted to help them make a trade later on in the season to fill a particular need. Starting pitching, probably the most pressing one. So, yeah, I think the Orioles have a lot more options, a lot more weapons at their disposal, but the Yankees are the Yankees, and you can't count them out.
Yeah, which, begs the question, I guess we'll get into it. When you look at a team like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the O's, we always talk about, the Mariners, the buyers, and then the sellers at the trade deadline. I don't want to focus too much on the Yankees, but give me a team or two that you believe has to be a buyer. And with that team, give me right now their most pressing need.
Well, I think the Seattle Mariners are a team, and I've kind of been talking about them as a team that needs to buy for a while now. Even when they had, the big lead in the AL West, even before it shrank to what it is right now, and that's just one game over Houston. Seattle is a franchise that has never been to the World Series in its near 50 years of existence. So the pressure is there. They've got a very good team, maybe one of the best starting rotations in all of baseball, but they lack offense. Their offense has been poor. And I think that's one of the things that Jerry Dipoto and company need to address at the trade deadline. I mean, it's almost imperative that, they have an opportunity now to, kill Houston's dominance of the AL West and advance far into the postseason. They need to take advantage of that. And to do that, they're going to need to bolster their offense, maybe at first base, maybe a DH outfielder type. But we definitely have to see Seattle make a move in my mind.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, their catcher's got 20 home runs. You mentioned their first baseman, Ty France. He's been quiet this year. I think he's batting 228, 6 or 7 home runs. I mean, they got a couple players with 10 or more, which nice segue, by the way, into the Astros and their dominance. I mean, I feel as though they've been such a dominant franchise for so long with the absurd run into the ALCS year after year after year. And man, it's just me. You mentioned the Mariners. plus 19 run differential. You look at Houston plus, I'm pulling it up right now, Steve. I think it's plus 49. So point being,
yep.
If you're the Mariners, you do not want to give the Astros any type of life at all, because we know what'll happen if the Mariners offense continues to struggle and the Astros start to catch fire. They're going to run away with that division.
Yep. And postseason experience, the Astros certainly have that in spades. They've been there. They've done that. The Mariners, not so much.
Right.
And when, the going gets tough, the Astros know exactly what they need to do. And, I don't think the Astros, certainly with Kyle Tucker being on the shelf for a lot longer than I think they thought he was going to be, and yet they still made that run to close the end of the first half. They're in really good position right now, especially if they get Tucker back, they get Justin Verlander back. That makes them a very formidable team.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, everyone was begging the question, what's going on with the Astros? What's going on with the Astros? 1240 on the Tuesday edition, Middays with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Coastal Sports Network, powered by ION TV. Rich Quinones here. Steve Gardner, great baseball writer for USA Today, Hall of Fame voter as well, puts out unbelievable content. So definitely follow these guys on Twitter and, of course, USA Today and Steve on X. I'm looking at other teams in the NL. We're seeing the Mets, making a little bit of run. Atlanta's kind of hanging around. The Phillies, look, you're going to have a bad series. It doesn't matter. You can win 100 games and then you can go out and you can drop 2 out of 3 to the A's, which is a bad team. And yet they're coming off a 3-game sweep, the Phillies were, of the Dodgers right now. So a couple points or a couple talking points with the Philadelphia Phillies. Do the Phillies have enough firepower / staying power to hold off Atlanta? And do you believe when it's all said and done, the Phillies are going to be on a collision course to meet the Dodgers in the NLCS?
Yeah, I think we will see a rematch. Those two teams are pretty clearly, in my mind, apologies to the Brewers or whoever else, wants to, Cardinals are making a surge. But yeah, these teams are the cream of the crop. And, you've got everything you need. Starting pitching, you've got offensive firepower, you've got a pretty deep bullpen on both sides,
yep.
Good bench, and experience in the postseason. I mean, what more can you ask for from either of these two teams? So I can't wait. I think if it does turn out to be those two in the NLCS fighting for the right to represent the league in the World Series, I think it could be an epic playoff bash, especially if everybody's healthy on both sides. So, I think these two teams, you can see how the Phillies might have had a little bit of a letdown against the A's. I mean, they're cruising along, having a great season so far, and it is a long year, and you're going to get some of those periods. Maybe even longer than a stretch of a 3-game series. They were able to, correct that and do it pretty quickly. You could have an extended, 10-game session where the Phillies could be slumping. But I think overall, they're a team that is definitely going to be there, be strong, and be a World Series contender when it all shakes out.
We know about the offense, right? And we also know when the offense went quiet against Arizona, they had issues. We know the pitching with some issues late in that series as well. But this year, you look at Aaron Nola, 11-4, Wheeler, 10-4. You look at Suarez, 10-4. You have potential NL Cy Young candidates in Nola and Wheeler. We'll get to the Pittsburgh kid, obviously, in a moment. But point being that you've got 3 bona fide starters right now that might win 15, 16, 17-plus games. It's kind of a rarity over the last several years with the Philadelphia Phillies.
Indeed. And don't forget Christopher Sanchez too. Sure. He's been really good, the last few starts out.
7-4. Yep.
So, I mean, that's a heck of a strong rotation, and knock on wood, they've been able to stay fairly healthy so far. And if you can do that, they're going to get JT Realmuto back, at some point here, you would think, and that would make them even stronger.
Where were you at the other night with the Pirates pulling the rookie?
Oh, yeah. Paul Skeens, that's the second time
Twice
that he's had a no-hitter, through 6 innings. I was fine with it. He wasn't, he went through he went through 7, right? 7 no-hit innings. one more inning, he wasn't going to pitch the ninth, even if he did make it. And that's just the way we are in baseball today. It's really, really hard.
I hate that.
I hear you,
I was waiting for you to say it. I talked about it last week. I feel as though when you're having a historic type of season, right? I mean, do you believe right now he's running away with the Cy Young?
I don't know about the Cy Young. I mean, certainly Rookie of the Year. Start the All-Star game. I mean, what more can you do? But because he got the slow start, he's not going to have as many innings as, the Nolas and pitchers of that ilk.
Yeah, but when he pitches, he's dominant.
But he is fantastic. And I think the second half depends on, and here's the thing, if the Pirates stay in position for a possible wild card berth.
That's what I was going to ask you.
That's where, they may push him a little bit and say, you've got the experience of going through an entire season, in high leverage type situations at LSU. So, playing in the College World Series, pressure and that sort of thing, probably not a huge deal to him. I think they can push him a little bit more if it means possibly going to the playoffs and what that would mean to the Pirates franchise. So if that happens, and he gets up to the 150, 160 innings, if that's possible, then he's definitely got a great shot at winning the Cy Young, especially if he just does what he does, which every time out, it seems like we see something special. Maybe we'll see that tonight too.
So 6-0, 1.90 ERA, and I pulled up his last several starts, 99 pitches, 107, 102, 96, 96, 103. But here's what the kid's doing that just makes me salivate. He's going 6-7 strong. And it kind of leads me to this. Your point about pulling the starter, is this more of a risk to reward? If we are in the mix, then yeah, we have to throw him out there. If we're not in the mix, almost like a Strasburg type of shutdown. And let's be honest, it took Washington several years to recover from that. And there was a lot of negative pushback by why you shutting down Steven Strasburg. At the time, I remember you and I were talking about it, and it turned out, obviously, it bared fruit down the road because they eventually won a World Series. But do you believe that this team's 7 or 8 out come, I don't know, August, then they shut this kid down?
I don't know that they'll shut him down completely, but I mean, we saw just heading into the break, the White Sox and Garrett Crochet, who's had, a stellar first half in his own right after not pitching hardly at all the last 2 years. They had him start and go out there for 2 innings. And then they pulled him after he went 6 up, 6 down. I don't think the Pirates are going to do that to Paul Skeens and to their fans, which, those folks in Pittsburgh have been, very patient for a long time, waiting for something to cheer about at the ballpark. So I think they will limit his innings, though. And you mentioned Steven Strasburg. That's a great cautionary tale because Strasburg was amazing. Remember his rookie year and how every start of his, we were celebrating almost like we were celebrating Paul Skeens' starts.
Right.
And, then he developed some arm, elbow, and shoulder issues and everything like that. So, a career that could have been a Hall of Fame type career was cut short because of injuries. I don't know that there's really any specific thing you can do to avoid those types of injuries completely, but they will be very careful, especially if there's no real incentive from a playoff standpoint to limit those innings.
Yeah, I'm going to pump the brakes too. Talk about Fidrich or Fernando Mania or Doc Gooden, but the kid obviously he's pitched really well. Steve Gardner kind enough to join us Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Will we get a 400 hitter, and will he reside in left field with Cleveland?
I'll tell you what, it is so hard. I mean, these days where, all of the defensive positioning and the pitchers throwing so hard and relievers coming out of the bullpen throwing 98, 99, it's impossible. I will say right now, it is impossible for baseball to have a 400 hitter unless they radically change, eliminate one fielder, or something like that. But Stephen Kwan has been fantastic. Love to see him. We talked about Luis Arraez kind of in this same vein last year when he was putting up, 360, 370 batting average. They're fun to watch because they're a different kind of player than we're seeing today, and kind of a throwback to back in the day when we watched, Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs, and even further beyond that, Rod Carew. Guys like that who could just handle the bat like it's a magic wand and get base hits. It's fun to see that, and it's great to see that there's still a place in baseball for those kinds of hitters, as rare as they are.
Yeah, listen, got to get on base, right? Small ball manufacturer runs. I talked about this last week, and I actually mentioned it yesterday too with Shohei Ohtani. And this is just me. I understand he's not pitching, right? We had this conversation, but I feel as though if he pitched and hit every season, whether he's in the AL or now in the NL with the Dodgers, he's your MVP. He's the best player in baseball. I gave the numbers yesterday when I was breaking down Henderson, Judge's numbers in the AL. I mean, Judge's numbers on pace, historic with the OPS and the slugging and the WAR and the home runs and the numbers and everything. I think Judge will win it again if he stays healthy. Henderson's had a hell of a season for Baltimore, but in the NL, I don't see, unless the kid Dela Cruz or Harper or Mookie Betts, they're on a tear. I just don't see Ohtani not winning the award. And I was getting pushback. Well, he is a DH, but okay, because he's not pitching this year. You can't have it both ways. I mean, do you believe Ohtani is the NL MVP?
At this point, yes, I do. And the numbers are just phenomenal. Already at the break, 29 homers, just looking at him now, 75 runs scored, 69 RBIs, 23 stolen bases, hitting over 300. I mean, who else is close? I mean, Bryce Harper possibly, I think, would be the strongest challenger just because of what he means to Philadelphia's playoff run. And, traditionally, if you're on a good team, you get a longer look in the MVP race. Those two guys, again, we were talking about, the class of the NL, Dodgers, Phillies.
Sure.
You look at the best players on the two respective teams. Right now, it's Shohei Ohtani, it's Bryce Harper, and you mentioned Mookie Betts, but he's been hurt for a little while.
That's the other one.
And so Shohei has been there day in, day out, and been delivering. They put him in a new spot in the the leadoff role this year. So he's adapted to that. That's valuable. And, when Mookie Betts went out. So I think that's one of the things we are witnessing. You and I have talked about this many times, a generational, a unique player, one of the best players in baseball history. We're getting to watch him in his prime. So you can't help but enjoy it.
4 players have won 3 MVPs or more, not in the Hall of Fame. Little Tuesday. Well, there are caveats with that, but go ahead.
Obviously, Barry Bonds is one.
Yep.
3 players not in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I'll give you a hint. One of them, used to don the pinstripes.
Okay. Let's see. Mattingly didn't win 3, did he?
I did not shoot. I did not take steroids. Now I'm on TV as a talking head.
Well,
I can't believe you're stumped.
Okay, hang on here. All right. But he
was literally going to rollerblade into Cooperstown. Literally just rollerblade. Started his career with Seattle, Texas, Yankees.
All right.
A-Rod.
Right.
And then the other two.
Okay, the steroid thing.
There you go.
Obviously,
I threw the curveball. I'm making you work today, my friend.
You are
Trout, because they're not eligible.
Exactly, the active players. So.
But it really puts it in perspective, right? When you think about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Harper's a great player. You can years ago we were making the case for Trout as long as he stayed healthy. That's it.
Yep, and it is when you are the best and you're recognized as the best for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
It's historic. So
all right,
my apologies to A-Rod. I don't know how he just vanished.
I mean, listen, I'm going to get you out of here. Listen, you got the body shot. You're getting up. There's no 10 count. We're going to close it on a positive note. I mentioned teams that are buyers. Give me a team 30 seconds or less. Give me a team that you think is going to be a definite seller at the trade deadline.
Here's the interesting thing. They're still technically in the playoff race, but I think the Chicago Cubs need to make a decision. And I think the best one for them is maybe just to reload and reorganize and take a step back. I mean, Cody Bellinger, I think, has got another year. So, but he could be a very handy trade chip for his versatility and his offensive prowess. So I think the Cubs may be one of the biggest ones that are teetering on the brink that probably should just say, hey, we're in last place right now. Maybe we should sell.
Steve Gardner on X at Steve A. Gardner, baseball writer, reporter, senior fantasy editor, USA Today, Hall of Fame voter as well, and gives unbelievable analysis, opinions, and takes. And it's very rare.
Yeah.
Very, very rare that this gentleman that just epitomizes the word class gets stumped.
I don't know what it is. I think
maybe it's just maybe it's the backdrop, the new setting, the new logo. I don't know. Radio, we were free flowing, brother. We were free
buddy.
There was no issues.
I got opinions all flowing all over everywhere today, but in terms of the baseball recall, I don't know where that went. So maybe there's only so much room up there in the old noggin.
Listen, you're one of the best and brightest, my friend. That's why I absolutely love talking baseball with you, and always you're always gracious with your time as well. So enjoy the All-Star game. I know we got a lot of second half storylines. We will certainly talk as the second half of the season gets underway, as we start to make that push to the playoffs. But I always appreciate you jumping on for a couple moments.
Look forward every time, Rich. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, there you have it. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back. We will close out hour number one. He's fantastic. He's you talk about baseball, and he's so objective. That's the thing. I mentioned, and I feel bad because I threw a couple guys that I've had on in the air in the past. I didn't say that I threw them under the bus. I think they were pushing narrative, so to speak. Steve never, ever does that, and he's tolerated me on the air for about 15 plus years now. He's fantastic. All right, 12:55, quickie timeout. We'll close out hour number one.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey. Why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Don't forget to get social with us. Follow Q at Rich Q on Q. And now, back to Q.
All right, a couple minutes as we creep up on 1 o'clock on the East Coast as we're closing in on an hour in the books. Excellent engagement from you guys on X, Pete Shepard Show, Angel Martinez, myself. We totally appreciate you guys chiming in Monday to Friday. You're locked and loaded, 7 hours of live and local content and evergreen content, as we like to say. You're not getting this, by the way, on stations down in the Southwest Florida region. We're talking live and local, and we're certainly engaging you guys left and right. 727-858-6650. You can text or call in the show as well. SR 1029 The Game. Don't forget to download the app as we are creeping up on 1 o'clock. Angel looks like he's just getting ready to sprout some unbelievable analysis, opinions, takes. He's chomping at the bit. And we're waiting for Circle Gets a Square. We are waiting for the incredible Shrinking Hermano. And there he is. What's going on?
Nothing. As I'm just looking at numbers and everything else. And it's funny because what's the name? Arturo? Hang on for a second. As I was looking something up here. Big Nick Torturo. If you guys remember him from not Any Given Sunday. What was our remake with Adam Sandler? The football movie?
Oh, The Longest Yard. Well, he was in a lot of good shows, man. He was in a lot of great shows, Nicky Totoro. You know who his brother is? John Totoro.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, diehard Yankees fan, man.
Ah, well. See,
very good actor. But anyway, go ahead.
No, but he was talking about, he was mentioning about, like, what was that with the national anthem? As a lot of folks are still wondering what the hell that was all about. But hey, listen.
That was horrible. That was embarrassing. Come on, stop. That was horrible.
Yeah, it was. There's no other way around it, but it is. Good points by Steve. And
did you see this breaking news coming out of Miami?
Out of Miami?
Yeah, Sergio Pino, one of the largest Hispanic home builders in the nation, dead during FBI and SWAT raid today in his Miami mansion amidst investigation into allegedly poisoning and hiring men to threaten his estranged wife.
Yikes.
It's not good for the 305.
It sure isn't.
It's a pretty, now this is, who hosts that podcast, Billy Corbin and Dan Levitard. Levitard is the pulse of what's going on in the 305, but yeah, that's, not good. Kind of carries over to what we said yesterday about the cruises, right?
Yep.
So.
How happy is Levitard got to be though? After, I know it's not the way he wanted to have things to kind of like end-ish at ESPN, but
right,
he's not doing bad whatsoever.
No, he's crushing it. Yep. He's doing a great job. Meadowlark Media, and listen, he's extremely, extremely opinionated. And I think sometimes, I heard that, I guess McAfee earlier today, and it's a good segue for hour number 2, but I heard McAfee basically crushed ESPN because of their, 100 athlete list. And it's like, he's the same guy that pretty much got the VP booted out, right? It's just amazing what happens too. Now, the other jackass, Skip Bayless, is finally, he's going to be off with his show. It's amazing. He's leaving FS1 Undisputed. I've never watched that show, but it kind of tells you what happens when you just you move away from Shannon Sharp. The problem with some of these talking heads with the ego is that if you disagree with them, then they figure out a way to kick your ass to the curb. Levitard's never kind of been like that. He's always had an opinion, and he's always had a really good opinion, but he also helps young journalists and young broadcasters, and he lets them be him, be themselves, by the way. Real quick, 1 o'clock straight up. Got to mention, we are Sports Radio 1029 FM, The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town, part of Coastal Sports Network, powered by ION TV, and it's a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. My main man, mi hermano, Angel Martinez, producing the show, keeping us on the air on the other side of the glass. 60 left to play with. But yes, go ahead.
The other thing, is it So off topic, on topic, but the off topic for the moment could possibly be a sleeper topic. Found guilty. Ooh, well, breaking news. I know we're not political around here, but Menendez found guilty. Senator
I saw that.
Whoopsies. It's not my gold. I don't know what you're talking about. How did I get there? That's silly. Well, you got to pay for it. But anyways, so I cannot sleep naturally. Just like if my body will, if I don't take something to go to sleep, my body will shut down at around 2-ish in the morning for 15 minutes, get back up. I'm ready to go for another 24 hours. So last night, normally I'll take ZQL because it's non-habit forming and stuff. And it doesn't have like any super duper ingredients or anything else. And so there was like just a little bit left, a little bit. And my body's like, oh, that's what we're doing tonight. And my lovely wife who said, you want me to go around and get some? I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
End up taking it about, I want to say 9:40-ish. Joey B, I see your comment. I'll get to here in a second. But look, normally I would say I can get a good solid like 4 hours straight, maybe 5 hours.
Okay.
Last time I was like, so this is what we're going to do, right? So now I'm going to put you to sleep about 10:40. Oh, about 2:40 in the morning, boing, time to get up. And then so I get up and usually I may grab like water or something else. Like, are you freaking kidding? It's only 2:40 in the morning. It sucked. So I should see a doctor about it because again, my sleep cycle absolutely sucks. But a lot of it comes from Philly when I worked, and I literally worked 22 out of the 24 hours a day. So I want to go down for 2 hours just like I did in the military. And my body's still to the point where it's like, nope, we got to go. We got something else to get done. Nope. Yesterday, we're in the same house. The studio's in the house. And I may have spent a total of 20 minutes with my wife yesterday, like just watching something. And she kind of looked at me. She was rough day at the office. I'm like, you have no idea how long the commute was.
Listen, it was pretty bad because I think I texted you at 9 o'clock. I was like, I just friggin' got off the computer. I'm like, this is friggin' ridiculous. And when you said you don't sleep naturally, at first I was thinking, all right, where are we going with this? You know, I don't, you're talking natural. Then you said naturally. Then I was like, okay, I wanted to just get it on record that we are covered up when we go to bed. Now, if you're not, that's your business. That's you and your whatever goes on in that household is your business. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't want to know. I do not. There's no alert on this one. I do not want to know. So you kind of caught my attention. But I think if you, first of all, yeah, 305 yeah, Mira be local right about now. Best hair nominee on YouTube Yearly Awards. I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, listen, I take that with a grain of salt, and it is what it is, man. I mean, you know, it's what we do. Yeah, I don't need anything. If I conk out for a couple hours, I conk out for a couple hours. But my sleeping habits are pretty much a little goofy as well, right? Because once the Keekster's up, Kiki, by the way, that's, you know, not names for certain things, but once the Kiki, you know, the dog is up, the puppy is up.
That's what you need, a slide whistle.
It's like she stares. She gives me that look at like 5:30-ish. And I'm like, all right, we're good. But then I get up, we go for the walk. I get my workout in. I'll get my sparring in. I'll hit the bag. I'll do whatever, make the fresh coffee, start prepping. Here we go. Take the other walk, lunch, which reminds me of 1:30-ish. We'll have to feed her. And then walk later on, rinse, repeat, you know, boom, 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 boom. So yeah, sleeping habits, they're just, you get to a certain point where if you can get 4, 5, 6 solid hours. I never liked when, I remember my buddy used to always say, you can catch up on, no, you can't.
Sure can't. Nope.
It's gone.
Yep.
Like, no, we're not copping Z's. They just out of here. Go on. So yeah, I don't know.
Joey B.
Q and Angel going to transform into AI characters with their online commuter time. Yeah, it's not good sometimes. You have to get up. You have
do.
to.
Although
You
for
cannot,
me,
it's just nobody wants to be in front of the computer freaking 20 hours a day.
well, you figure from the time I sit in this chair at 5 a.m, the break, unless I'm running straight like the way we did it today, then you figure after 2, so you're looking at what, 9 hours.
Yeah.
And then the in between, because if I have to use the restroom, it's like the quick run, come back and get behind the glass here.
Yeah, plus, the weekly content that we're putting out too. And, with all the other shows, I just recorded the Double Jab podcast that's out. Great. Check out the YouTube channel, Rich Quinones, Angel Barrientos, him and his twin brother. The kid's actually fighting on the Jake Paul undercard in Tampa on the Zone this weekend. And then we got the BYP. We got Middays with Q. We got the other pod, the player pod. So, yeah, I mean, when you're constantly putting out the content, it never, ever stops. So I want to get into a couple things on the other side as well. I know we're due for a quick timeout, but want to remind everyone it's a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. We always appreciate you keeping us locked into Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. You guys were incredible the last couple of days and last week with the engagement on X, and now you can just connect with us at CSN Florida. You'll get Pete Show, you'll get Angel Show, you'll get Jonathan Marshall, you'll get Lloyd Show, Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. You'll get Middays with Q as well. And we just love the friggin' eyeball, 727-858-6650. On the other side, we're going to see if we can rattle some cages here. Talk a little college football. And I'm not sure if you guys heard the shots that were fired across the bow that had to do with an SEC talking head to Coach Prime. So we will get into that as well. 16 to book, 60 to play with. Keep it locked in on a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Quickie timeout. We'll come back on the other side.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Martha Stewart says she loves Q from Martinez & Company. He knows how to turn up the heat. Here is Angel and Q. I'm going to recharge my batteries.
As you should. As you should.
I gotta find the other one too. You in the restaurant there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't call the cops. You're walking around with a camera phone saying, hey, can I get you on for a couple moments? 11 past the 1 o'clock hour. Jesus, God. 11 past the 1 o'clock hour on a Tuesday edition of Middays. Yeah, let me just capture you and your boyfriend having dinner now. What do we got going over here, man? You're in the right part of town, my friend. Did you 727-858-6650? You can also connect with all of us on social media as well. If you follow CSN Florida, please do. We always encourage you to do that. And then, as we mentioned, you got the whole gang up there as well, right on Twitter, following as we speak. You can get Angel at SR1029. The game, Pete Shepard at Pete Shep 326. Sounds like an area code there. It's like, Pete doesn't want to be found there, but had a really good show on this morning. Some good guests and some great engagement. So college football. I don't know if any of you guys saw this. I guess during SEC presser, SEC Media Week, somehow the conversation got on Colorado and Deion Sanders and Paul Finebaum, ESPN, SEC. He does like a 17-hour show a day on the SEC, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it. I mean, you talk about SEC-centric universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as though, plans of college football revolve around the sun, right? He basically came out and said that Colorado is irrelevant in the big picture of college football, right? So he said, quote, he's a standalone person, Deion, right? He's one of the most charismatic people we've ever seen, but Colorado is nothing. They don't matter. They're irrelevant in the big picture of college football. Anyone asking whether Deion Sanders and Colorado are close to the playoffs simply doesn't understand the reality of the road. They're not going to the playoffs this year. Ooh, Nick Costco and his checks bouncing will be pissed. And I'm not sure Deion Sanders is ever going to get them to the playoffs because I don't think he has the patience to stay at Colorado long enough. Now, let me break a couple things down with that. I disagree with the not relevant. I mean, it's pretty, if you think about ultimately what the Deion effect, right? I mean, think about that. The SEC, it's new look SEC, a lot of changes since the 2023 CFB season, right? Saban moved on from Alabama, conference expanded 16 teams, Oklahoma, Texas, their inaugural seasons in the conference. That's why, you got that guy that's SEC centric. Fine. Then you start to talk about strictly the results on the field. Now, Colorado finished 4-8. Everyone was looking at them to win 6-7, maybe be bowl eligible. Okay, fine. But if you think about how they burst on the scene, they had to win against TCU, and then all of a sudden they had a couple losses. They started to figure out the offense. Hunter got hurt. Sanders got a little nicked up here and there. And then the bloom was off the rose for Deion. Those are all fair. But Colorado is reporting a record number of applicants for the fall 24 semester, including 50.5% increase in Black applicants, 25% increase in Latino applicants. That's the Deion effect. Okay, that's number one. So I'm making money for the university. I'm keeping the alumni and the boosters happy. I'm trying to put a better product on the field, and we get it. Deion talked the talk, he walked the walk. He came in first time, meeting the kids, half the room, you guys aren't going to be here. That was all accurate. That was all accurate. I have no problem with you saying that. Yeah, I'm taking my kid with me. And, in this regard, you knew the kid was a friggin' player. So again, all that, and if you want to criticize the play on the field, you're allowed to criticize the play on the field because eventually the reality came in that they were just not ready to battle the big boys. But what they did is they kept the college football fans, engaged because every single week or weekend, we were not only thinking to ourselves, what's going to go on with Colorado this weekend? Are they going to cover? Are they going to win? They're going to pull off the upset. What about Hunter? What about Sanders? How's Coach Prime going to coach these guys up? They had a rough season. And no one's disputing that. No one's disputing that. But you can't turn around and say that he hasn't had an effect. And that's the problem. This is a team that was 3-0. Then obviously they got humbled by Oregon. They had a crazy game against UNC, and then they beat Arizona State, and they were 4-2. And we were like, oh, you know what? This team, they might be bowl eligible. And then what happens? Stanford humbled UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, which was a disaster. And then I think Utah, they lost 23-17. And you get humbled a little bit. And that happens. But when this team was 4-2, 4-3, we were all talking about if they beat Stanford, they're 5-2, they're pretty much going to be bowl eligible with a win or two. So I don't think it's necessarily accurate to sit there and say that they're irrelevant. Okay? But where I will agree with what Paul had to say was the latter part of that quote. And that's where people you have to think about this. Anyone asking whether Deion Sanders, Colorado are close to the playoffs simply doesn't understand the reality of the road. Okay, get rid of that. They're not going to playoffs this year. I'm not sure Deion Sanders is ever going to get them into playoffs. Keep that to the side because I don't think he has the patience to stay at Colorado long enough. I agree with that in this regard. If Florida State, as you know, I'm just saying, a NFL team. Is this a plausible scenario? Because it makes too much sense. The Dallas Cowboys, we'll get to that in a moment. The Dallas Cowboys have a bad season. They have a down season. Prescott struggles. McCarthy's on the hot seat. Jerry Jones says enough is enough. Get rid of Prescott. Get rid of McCarthy. Dallas spits the bit. They win 4 games, 3 games, whatever. Jerry Jones is probably thinking, I'm going to draft Shedeur Sanders and I'm going to hire Deion Sanders to be head coach. Is that plausible? And is that a possibility? And I don't like talking in hypotheticals, but let's just say, as we mentioned yesterday, right? Hypothetically speaking, that can be on the table. And if Dallas really wants to make a splash, Jerry Jones is going to open the checkbook, meaning if you're Deion Sanders, you have every right. See, everyone sits there and says, hey, man, you can't sit there and try to build a program and take off. Why not? The kids do it. It's one of the reasons Calipari got tired, because I can't compete with guys leaving 1 and 2 years. Jay Wright, 1 or 2 years. I can't Mike Krzyzewski, 1 or 2 years. Athletes, players can do it. Now you mentioned the NIL. The coaches, if you're going to sit there and say, I'm going to be here long-term, 3 years max,
right?
Be true to your word. But I think in this case, if the grass is a little more greener on the other side, if the opportunity presents itself, then Deion might investigate that. That's where I don't necessarily think it's patience. I just think he's such an egocentric guy. I mean, that's who he is. That's what makes him and made him a great player. It's making him a good coach. The ego, the persona, the personality. Hey, man, what's down the road, right? We all grew up with that kid. We all grew up with the one friend where he got the new bike and then you get the bike and right away, he's not even worried about his bike. He's thinking about, man, I should have got your bike. That's a nicer bike or whatever. I'm looking down the road. That's Deion to me. So in that regard and what Paul Finebaum was saying, I tend to agree. Where I don't agree is when or where he said that they're irrelevant because no matter what, there will be eyeballs, Caitlin Clark effect to the WNBA, there will be eyeballs watching Colorado to see if they can win their 5, 6, 7 games and shut a lot of people up and become bowl eligible.
No, it's a lot of good points that you made there. And it's really interesting to talk about as far as Deion and then his son coming over to Dallas, if that's the case. And, because now you have Coach Billick who's joining the NFL ranks as far as the broadcast. So that is, it is a good hypothetical. I don't think it's a far.
But again, are we going to blame him though? That's my point. Like, can you blame someone for wanting to take a better offer? Like you go back and you listen to that quote. Yeah, and you listen to the breakdown. But again, I don't agree with saying he hasn't had an impact because you're looking at the number of applicants that's increased in the merchandise and the ticket sales and people going to games early, and it is a party, right? I mean, that's why you're paying them the type of money that you're paying them. That's why you hire a guy like Deion Sanders, because he has that effect. Does it work with the other major colleges like a Florida or a Miami or Florida State? They're pretty much established over the years. We know that. Colorado's, aside from, the Cordell Stewart, Eric Bieniemy era, they were really never a very good football program, but he's trying to restore that credibility back. So I think it's kind of it's a out of bounds shot to say that they're not relevant. But I also agree when he says, he doesn't have the patience. And I don't know if it's patience. I just think a better opportunity might come along, and money talks, man. That's the reality. That's where we're at.
It is. But wasn't there also that someone had said to him, if Florida had an open position, he also said that he would go to Florida. So, I mean, and he's going to take it. You can't hate someone for, if the opportunity makes sense for them, their family, they're going to take it. I don't care who you are. You could be with ABC for, 17 years. And if CBS says, listen, I understand where you are. I get it. I get the whole Disney thing. But over here, we do things like this. And if it makes sense, and let's say maybe you don't have to move out from the area. Let's say it's up in New York. You only have to go, to Lower Manhattan versus Upper Manhattan. You're going to make the best decision you're going to make for yourself. But I think if it was presented to Deion and he goes to, basically coach where he played, not for nothing, I would jump in too. I would just tell the Colorado kids, listen, sorry, man, love you guys and all, and I believe in this program, but I mean, I'm making a jump to the NFL. So I wouldn't hate him if that's the case, but he's also got a long road to climb when it comes to that Colorado football team compared to where they started last year and where they ended.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have to look at, everything's all about progressions, right? And it might not be on our timetable, but again, if you see a little bit of improvement, you're going to take it. D chimes in, Q, agree 100%. Let the hate come out, especially with the old man. I don't, it's an opinion, right? It's an opinion ultimately. Right. That's all it is. But again, you have certain personas and personalities out there that they're a hot trigger, a hot point of topic where they're going to have an opinion on. Aaron Rodgers, Caitlin Clark, LeBron James, Deion Sanders. You've got some athletes, you got some personalities that if you have an opportunity to have a comment, a thought, an opinion on what they're doing or how they're acting or what they're saying, everyone's always going to chime in. That's just the reality of it. But I think it's a disservice. Are we thinking this last year? Like when this team was 4-2 and they had a nice win on the road against Arizona, and they almost beat Stanford, a couple, fluky plays, 3 overtimes or 2 overtimes. Are we having this conversation? No. We're looking at the fact that they dropped what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They dropped 5 in a row. 5 in a row, I think, to close out, 6 in a row to close out the season. So I think it's low-bearing fruit. I think it's a lazy take, but I do agree to some extent with the latter part of it where he might be too impatient. I just think if the NFL comes a calling, and who knows, he might not want to deal with professional athletes. But to your point, Angel, maybe the Floridas, Florida States, the Miamis of the world, he might look at that and say, let me go to Miami and Florida and stick it to Florida State, which would be interesting. You saw the flash up there that Ayuk is requesting a trade. We'll get into that a little bit on the other side. 25 past the 1 o'clock hour. Keep locked into a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. We are part of the Coastal Sports Network, empowered by Ion TV for all your late breaking news, accidents, weather, traffic jams. You can check them out online at Ion TV. About a half an hour to play with. And as we always like to remind you guys, do not forget to download the app, Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game. You can now follow us on X at CSN Florida. The show is live. Angel did a great job getting all the ducks in a row and the logistics handled out for that. And we are getting a ton of engagement, and we appreciate the guys sticking with us, 7 o'clock, the fans, the listeners, the viewers with Pete, carrying over to Martinez and Company, carrying over to Middays with Q. Greatly appreciate it. 727-858-6650. About 30 to play with. We'll take you up to 2 o'clock straight up on a Tuesday. Quickie timeout.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, IonTP.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
It's one of those things. And
dry coming back from
wait.
You can't throw.
Download the Sports Radio 102.9 FM, the game app, and tell your friends that Florida has a new leader in digital sports radio.
By the way, except the heat warning in New Jersey. Thank you for that, Governor. Head to your nearest polling station. Go scratch. Go downstairs. You throwing a bumper up there, coming back dry? What the hell?
No.
First time on the radio?
I got an important message that came through, and so I made sure I'm trying to reply back to the important message, and then.
Well, we understand where priorities are.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
no. Breaking news. We understand where priorities.
No. Listen, I just go ahead and give myself one of these.
Nah, you don't need that. No, circle gets a square. You don't need to do that at all. Would you say so? Ayuk is demanding a trade. Yeah, I got news for you. Not getting traded.
No.
You can demand all you want. Doesn't mean anything. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to trade him. Samuel's always hurt. As great as a player he is, he's always hurt. They need Ayuk. He's not going anywhere. I don't care that requested a trade, reaching a contract extension. They will see. The problem is apparently San Francisco is not willing to, quote, engage in negotiations since May. So, he's like, okay, I'm going to request a trade. I just don't see it happening. I don't. Listen, I got to figure out the best fit. I got to figure out what I can get for you. I mean, look, he's a hell of a player, right? A hell of a player. Everyone's looking at the San Francisco 49ers. I mentioned this to Lloyd yesterday. They're still the team to beat. It's just tough in the NFC. It's just tough when you lose a Super Bowl and you have that type of hangover. So, listen, you can hem and haw all you want and say that you want to get traded. It's just, you have to be very careful here, right? Because look at Devontae Adams. Does he look like he wants to play for the friggin' Raiders? Remember there was this comment, if they keep playing Derek Carr, Adams wants out, right? So you can get a new fat deal, a new fat contract, but you can still be miserable and not happy, right? So Cowboys haven't been able to sign CD. Ayuk wants out of 49ers, right? Giants are, hoping Daniel Jones is ready to start September. And then you got the Eagles just sitting there. And then Washington just sitting there. So, yeah, I'm not going to get all, Ayuk wants to get he's going to get dealt.
No, but he's talked about, I know he's mentioned too that he would love to go to Philly, but I would think, like you, I would seriously doubt the 49ers would request a trade. Now, he was really cool to talk to at the Super Bowl party, Monday night on Monday. He was a really nice guy, but would I love him in Philly? Absolutely. Except for, I think the 49ers, if they're going to do something like that, it's going to be, I would think, a significantly high demand that might be over the top, or obviously they want to fill a couple of needs that they're going to need, rightfully so. So if they're looking still for like a tight end or a running back or, cornerback, it's going to demand a hefty amount, I would think, money compensation.
Yeah, but here's the thing: play through your rookie deal, right? But nobody's saying that,
right?
Nobody's saying that. Like, play through your rookie deal. You're on the final year of your rookie contract. You're going to make $15 million. Play through.
But this also goes back to, and we've mentioned this before, when you and I were together at Martinez Company, that we see a lot of these athletes, right? It started with friggin' running back over from the Cowboys, went to Mexico, decided he wanted to hold out, right? How did that work out for him?
Talking about Elliott?
Yeah. So, it's when these guys start.
It also screwed a lot of people the way the bar was set.
Correct. So to me, if you're going to, when you start setting these kind of precedents, the problem is that now it's like, all right, do I demand a trade? Do I want to stay here? Am I going to get a franchise tag? All this, these athletes and agents create these issues. And then when they create it, what else do you have to friggin' say? You guys, this is what you guys wanted. Now deal, the hand is dealt to you, because my thing is, to me, I don't think I want to leave out of San Fran. What we saw from them the last 2 seasons, they are so close of winning a Super Bowl. What happens if who's to say they don't trade you to the Jets, but they trade you over there, and then let's say San Fran wins Super Bowl. Then what? I know, again, super hypothetical.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Big time super hypothetical. Well, because he's also looking at...
Not the Jets, San Fran, by the way.
No. But to your point, and I get what he's doing. He's looking around saying, I want to get mine. Right? Think about that. Think of all the wide receivers that got paid. So, Amon St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, right? They all got paid. Justin Jefferson, 4 years, 140, 110 million. So I get it. He wants to get paid, but you also have a rookie deal. Play through it. Right? Play through it. Because what's going to happen if he turns around and he gets hurt in week 4? Then he's really, really screwed. By the way, statement from Hard Rock Stadium about the debacle the other night. I got to read it to you. Hard Rock Stadium has safely housed hundreds of world-class events in its 37-year history, including Super Bowls, major international soccer matches, Formula One, NFL, college football, concert tours, global events. In each of those, security was a joint effort amongst the organizer, local law enforcement agencies, and the venue. As we previously said, Hard Rock Stadium worked collaboratively with on CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, right? The organizations, local law enforcement agencies on security, both leading up to and during the Copa America tournament. The agencies met regularly, including daily security briefings throughout the month-long tournament. Hard Rock Stadium implemented and in many cases exceeded CONMEBOL's security recommendations throughout the tournament and the final. As we do following all major events, we will evaluate the protocols and processes in place across all aspects of stadium operations. We remain grateful for the law enforcement officers and stadium staff who work to prioritize the safety of all attendees despite the unprecedented, I love this wording, unprecedented scale of aggressive and unlawful behavior on display from a subset of unruly fans. We will have no further comment at this time. That sounds like a shit ton of excuses.
Yep.
Unruling fans, right? Hooligans. So explain to me, whose responsibility was it when, 3 jerk-offs are trying to squeeze themselves through an elevator shaft or a vent? Like, think about that for a moment.
No, because see,
we cleared everyone out. No, wait, hold on. I think we have 2 or 3. What was this? Right out of Die Hard, John McClane? You know, all things considered, I'd rather be in Philadelphia. But I mean, seriously, what are we doing here?
That's because the conversation probably went like, I'm sorry, this is the, Miami Gardens. Yeah. So we're looking for, and we want to do this ultra cheap, but we would like 10,000 armed personnel, but we can only afford 100. Can we make it work? No. Click. Okay. How many do we have? Is the maintenance engineer department available? Give them a couple cups and let's go. It's bad. It's a bad look.
Yeah. It's a really bad look. It really is. You can't listen. We know it. Don't give me excuses, right? I don't need young kids kind of running the show. I don't need rent-a-cops running the show. Like, don't give me excuses. You have to prepare yourself better for in-game experiences, whatever event you are hosting. That's it. You got a World Cup now to get ready to prepare for, right?
Yep.
So get your asses in order with security, police, perimeter, parking lot, gates, fences, checkpoints, shafts, elevators, bathrooms, as Tommy Lee Jones said in The Fugitive, in-house, outhouse, penthouse, henhouse, roadhouse, whatever. Like, get your shit together so this kind of nonsense doesn't happen again. I just can't imagine. Oh, let me get to my seat. Oh, look, let me look up in the shaft. Hey, what are you doing up there, Joe? You don't have a ticket? Not a problem. Crawl a little more. I'll meet you in Section A, seat 103.
Yeah. What was it? Did you see the skinny pipe? This one right here.
That's what I'm saying. It's so, oh man, it was so bad. Wait, and then did you also hear that who was it? The Colombian, the president of the team?
Yeah, I mentioned it on my show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Federation president and his son.
Yeah, 1226, him and his son was ting, come on, let's go. It's like, it's already been a shit show. Now you decided at 1226 in the morning, you know what?
Oh, man. That's just, you want taking, as my buddies would say, taking L's left and right, man. That's horrible. What are we doing here? Let's lose 1-0 to Argentina and then, muck up the place and get arrested.
Yep.
27 other people. I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. It literally, it reminded me, there's one of my all-time great favorite movies.
Right.
And it happens to be a Sylvester Stallone movie. It's called Victory.
Oh, that's a good one.
Fantastic. Michael Caine, Pele, Max von Sydow, 1981, right? It was the Allies against the Germans, the prisoners, the soccer match. At the end of the movie, like, it's absurd. Like, they're pushing the fences and, they're huddling off all the players so they can escape, and they're putting clothes on them and hats, and they're covering up the uniforms. It's a touching scene. It's a beautiful scene, right? They didn't even win the game. They tied the game 4-4. Stallone makes an unbelievable save for the PK to seal the tie. It's unbelievable. He has no business being a netminder or goalkeeper. He doesn't understand football, soccer. He doesn't. He's a brute. But he showed heart and grit. Pele has the unbelievable bicycle kick. It's a marvelous movie. I love it. It's so underrated. It's a fantastic movie. I might watch it tonight. But point being, it's when they're running onto the field, it's like jubilation. We're free. It's beautiful to watch. Like, as a kid, you're like, man, this is, maybe a little tear, right? Something. Right. That wasn't the case.
No. It's the polar opposite.
That's my whole point.
Push.
Yeah, that wasn't that's my whole point. That wasn't the case on Sunday. That was more of running for your life.
It sure was.
And we joke about it. It's not funny, but it should not have come to that point. It really shouldn't have. I mean, what is going through somebody's mind when they decide that I really want to watch this game?
Yeah.
So let me crawl into a freaking ventilation shaft.
Yep. That's what it is. Listen, you guys know I like to make fun, but it's true. ¿Dónde está Jose? Jose, Julio, hermano,
Madre. ¿Por qué? I would rather, buy a scalp ticket and get thrown in jail than all of a sudden have to make that call. Hey, can you come and get me? Where are you? I'm in the vent shaft inside Hard Rock Stadium, right above the 50-yard line, right above midfield.
Yeah. If you go in the bathroom, you can hear me. Yeah, you go in there. The reception's better. It's such a bad look. What makes it worse though, there was the video that was out there, and there's more and more that's coming out.
Yeah,
where they were going. So you if you go to these venues a lot of times, and you put the tickets on will call, you can go pick them up at the will call window, and then go in. So at one of the will call overhangs, which that's like a cheap pleathery kind of material just for the cover. They were taking a foot, which it looked like one guy was basically, if those who can't see, I'm trying to describe it here on digital radio, but basically put yourself against the wall, your shoulder blade and the right side of your body up against the building. And then people were leapfrogging off the guy's shoulder onto the canopy into the runway. I was like, Jesus, you guys, really? Is this what we're doing? And the one lady that was cracking me up, she's taking the camera, because everybody has their video, and she's filming everybody. I'm like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to put it on World Star? I mean, you're not doing anything with it, because it's not like, what are the cops going to do? By the time they identify these people, they're long freaking gone.
There's too many comments and jokes I can make right now that people would totally take.
I'll say what, going through the wall, climbing over the wall,
just like out of context. I mean, I don't need to go to 305 Miami Gardens, right, to see that kind of nonsense. But listen, it was an embarrassment. There's really no other explanation to it. It was an absolute embarrassment. And if you're a stadium and you're that brand, you have to be held to a higher standard and accountability. I mean, and I think Joey B mentioned it too. Like Miami, South Beach is not like it was, even though this is Miami Gardens, South Beach was not like it was 20, 30 years ago. It's not, man. It's not, gorgeous walk along, Collins Avenue, Calle Oche, going to Little Havana, going down the Brickell, even though Brickell is like a lot of money, right? But walking through South Beach and, seeing the old, and I know it's a restaurant now because I remember it vividly, where Versace, was it Versace where he was murdered, right? On the step. It's a restaurant now. You walk through there, down 8th Street and stuff, 8th and Collins and all that stuff. It's, I mean, I hate to say it, what was, once gorgeous, like we used to watch in the, the credits of Miami Vice and back in the day, it's almost the equivalent of some of the places like going to Atlantic City or Camden, New Jersey. Like it's, you start to attract a level of person that you don't want. And the younger the crowd, the beachgoers, look, we were all young. We all did goofy stuff, but it's to the point now where there's zero accountability. There's zero respect. And what happens, right? You just see the drinking, the smoking, the joking, the fights, the brawls, the gunshots, the violence. It's sad. It is really sad. But then to have something like this happen at a branded venue with that name for that event, and you're just talking about the vagabonds that were just trying to get in, is even worse.
Yep.
And that's what makes it, scary when you think about it. 145, about 15 to play with. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's why the reason why I chose here where I am on the west side here of Florida is for that simple reason, because Miami, don't get me wrong, Miami's nice, to visit, but you've never had to watch your surroundings as much now than you did before.
That's a fair point.
And then to me, you go to Tampa, I'm not saying you don't have to put your complete guards down, but the likelihood of something breaking out in Tampa is very, very minimal, very minimal. Unless, people decide to put stuff on social media, which doesn't happen because the cops down here do a really good job. The Tampa Police Department and Sheriff's Department are really tough and pretty strict as far as like when they see a group of people, they don't care if it's college kids. Like, what are you guys doing? Let's break it up here. What are we doing? So that's Tampa. Plus, because of the growth here, you got the beautiful beaches on the Gulf Coast here. I mean, it's just a great place to live. Miami, if you want to keep that stringent kind of Northeast mentality, you can go down to Miami. You're probably going to bounce yourself back up to Orlando because Orlando is a huge transparency of folks that came from Northeast. I want to live life a little more comfortable. That's why I'm over on the West Side, because Miami is it's just a smidgen too vibrant for me. I came from Philly. I came from all the nonsense. I don't want to deal with the nonsense anymore. I want to go park my car and know when I go walk somewhere to the restaurant, I can enjoy that time with me and my lady. I'm not trying to freaking worry about like, do we park in the right spot? I mean, what's going on over here? What's going on with that crowd? I just don't. That's why I like Tampa region.
No, I get it, and rightfully so. And that's why, not to trail off, but it's one of the reasons too, you start to see a lot of people not come back down to Atlantic City, especially in the summertime, to the casinos, because there's a lot of riffraff, a lot of nonsense. Some parking lots, Bally's, Tropicana, the parking lot. Like I said, the ocean's kind of off the beaten path, the resort, and then Borgata, you're not technically in Atlantic City. So you go over the bridge, you make a right if you live in any of the barrier islands, or you're coming down 30 off the expressway, you come down 30, and then you just stay to your left right before you go into Brig. You're not technically in Atlantic City when you go to Borgata. But again, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter the place. There's always riffraff, the day trippers. There's always nonsense. There's always, I always tell my buddies this because they play a lot. They're big time poker players. They walk in with a lot of cash, couple grand, and certain areas you park in the surface lot, park close, you walk out, you're good. But you take a camera in any one of those casinos and you have people that are being followed around and say they have a little hit at the table or they have a little hit on the slot machine, more times than not, they should be escorted out because you will get the trolls that will basically follow them. The boardwalk, it's amazing. You will see people that will walk on the floor. I should say walk on the floor, meaning they're on the casino floor, and they'll just rummage to see if there's slot slips, if there's a couple cents here and there, or they'll go to the machines and they'll see if there's something left over. Like, you want to steer clear of that because chances are they're looking for somebody with money. They're looking for somebody that's keeping their wallet in their back pocket, not their front pocket. They're looking for, and I always would caution people this, man, you never walk on a casino floor like this, counting stuff. Like, you're leaving yourself to get your ass kicked and for your money to get stolen and for you to get jacked up. Like, it's just stupid. Like, don't brag. Like, keep it to yourself. And that's why when you walk in Borgata through the surface lot, you're like 10, 15, 20 steps past the race book. That's where the high end, all the poker players are. So you can cash out at that window. Somebody shut that window down. Some of these guys are now forced to walk across the casino to go to the windows, and they're bringing in their trays. So, for a fact, people are eyeing them up.
Yep.
It's just a question of, you want to F with me today, or if you're an older person, you win something, you have security walk you out. But to your point, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yep. It's everywhere. Every city. It's all over the place. So about 10 to play with. I know we're a little behind. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back. We'll close it up. Got to remind everyone, though, before we do, it's a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. Me and Romano Angel Martinez behind the glass producing show, keeping us on the air. Start your mornings off right. Pete Shepard Show, 7 to 10. Martinez and Company, 10 to 12. And then myself, Middays with Q, 12 to 2, right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM. The Game, Southwest Florida's newest game in town. We are evergreen content, original content. And as we like to kind of joke, we see you all looking. But we always appreciate Angel loves when I do that. We see you. We see you. You're taking what we're doing. Sticking it over there. You love it. We see you. We have ojos. We see you. So
exactly.
So about 10 to play with. Last time out, we'll come back on the other side.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma.
What in the world's going on here? I lost Q. I lost my hermano. All right. Hopefully you guys are still hearing me. Apparently, for some reason, I lost my hermano. I don't know how in the world it happened. Well, there he is.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
No, I said the same thing. I don't know. I tried to bring up the commercial. For some reason, everything started blacking out.
Your shit together back there.
No, it's because I went to the commercial break and they all went black. I don't know what the hell happened. So that's why I was quickly coming back. I don't want people to be like, what the hell's going on with these two over there? No, the other thing that you brought up in Atlantic City, and it's a shame because it never used to be the case. Like there were some areas. So I'm throwing this way back into the 70s when there used to be metered parking. Anywhere on the street, anywhere you went to, you put in, your quarters, whatever and it sucked because depending on how hot it was, your feet were burning as you were running back to your car, throwing the quarters, go back to the beach and be with your family. And then if you had something to eat, you would come back to the trunk. Like my dad had a 76 Chevrolet. We'd pop open the Impala trunk and then, eat, head back. Then, things started going digital, whatever. Now the way you end up paying for it. But it never used to, even in the garages though. In the garages, you never had to, kind of like really look out to see exactly where you were. But even if you park in the garage and you walk through, like I used to walk through Caesars and then go out to the boardwalk. And when you went to the boardwalk, it was always just, collecting people out there and you just had fun. You never had to worry about
been like that for 20 years, man. You can't Wildwood, North Wildwood, nope, Cape May, Ventnor, Margate. There's good places, but and by the way, they still have Ocean City, New Jersey, not Maryland, Ocean City, New Jersey. You go down 9 Summers Point right over the bridge. That's a dry town, right? There's no drinking. There's no bars in Ocean City.
Right.
So, but they still have what the hell? Where you stick the coin in when you park. They still have the parking meters.
Right.
It's where the city's making money, man. Margate, you slip in Ventnor, Margate, you go through a bridge is like $1.50. You come back around, it's another $1.50. All the tolls went up. 2 on the expressway. Delaware Memorial Bridge is going up. Walt Whitman, Ben Franklin.
I heard
all going up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's utterly ridiculous. But they still have the parking meters. And as far as the boardwalk, in Atlantic City, I don't, Ocean City Boardwalk, there's nonsense. There was nonsense a month ago. Atlantic City Boardwalk, there's always nonsense. Wildwood, you're not taking your kids there anymore. You're just not. It's just, you're not going to drop off, 4 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds. I'll come back in a couple hours. There's just too much crap that goes on because people have way too much time on their hands. You've got instigators. I don't care where they're coming from. North Jersey, Central, South, Philadelphia, Northeast, South. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
There's agitators friggin' everywhere and everyone's in a rush. People are not, they're just, it just gets, when we say it really gets crazy down here in the summertime, it's utterly ridiculous. When I say it gets crazy, I don't care if it's Brig, if it's Ventnor, if it's Margate, if it's Summers Point, if it's Ocean City, if it's Wildwood, if it's Cape May, it's crazy. But then come September, where you get the Indian summer for a good month or so, and you still can go to the beach, it's a ghost town. Yep. You're lucky if you have 100,000 people, which is great. You're a fool if you try to go to a Wawa and get friggin' ice. And it's worse in Ocean City because it's so congested. It's like growing up back in the day in the row homes in South Philly, right off, if you're off 9th or, where some of my family is 9th and McKean, right? And you hear the traffic constantly, that's what it is in Ocean City because people are parking the traffic, boom, boom, boom. Get me somewhere where it's a little more slower, quieter. Now, you know me, I love Miami. I love South Beach. I love North Miami. I love that area. But to your point, sometimes you need to look on the other side, a little more quieter, a little more expensive, not as much nonsense. But as we've learned, there's nonsense all over the friggin' place, right? Yeah. I mean, we got nonsense from, 12 to 2 right here. We got nonsense 7 to 10. We got nonsense 10 to 12. We got it all over the place. By the way, couple promos, reminders. Later in the week, Corey Parsons, we're trying to get him on. Also, the prop, Professor Shine, our gambling insider. We got Logan Holler, who's a really good female fighter. We're trying to get her on Thursday. Has a wonderful story. Fought in Team Combat League. A lot of these fighters, they have, I guess you can say, motivational factors behind their career and what they're fighting for. Working on a couple of former players that we're going to be popping on the show. But point being is, if you guys are just tuning in, we absolutely love the engagement, the comments, you guys checking us out on Facebook, on X, on our YouTube channels, respectively. And the fact that, you're tuning in from 7 o'clock in the morning and you're rolling with us until 2, and we're going to add some more local stuff and content. We're working hard on that. It's really pretty awesome. We don't take it for granted. And we certainly love the fact that you guys are keeping us locked in. You're talking 7 hours of live and local, which again, not a lot of stations, especially down in Southwest Florida, are doing what we're doing. And you download the app, you can stick us in the pocket. You can take us anywhere you want to go. That's what we like to say. You can, like, sometimes I just look at the Incredible Shrinking Hermano, just put it up anywhere we want to go.
And that's pretty much it. Well, the best part about it too is, like I was telling people on my show here as well, on Martinez and Company, is that you can, if you jump in the car, so let's say you're at the house, you're running out to the doctor's appointment, heading off to work or whatever. If you're watching the show on the app, when you jump in the car, because we want you to pay attention on the road, guess what you do? Right next to the live video is the radio player. You hit the radio player right where you left off from the live video. It goes right into the radio player. Put that in your Android CarPlay, and you won't miss a beat, and you're good to go.
Perfectly said, perfectly crafted from the passion, the corazon behind the operation, Mr. Angel Martinez. All right, you got Pete Shepard, Manana tomorrow, 7 to 10, Martinez and Company, 10 to 12. Myself, Middays with Q, 12 to 2. Appreciate Steve Gardner jumping on board, talking some great baseball talk and dialogue, and we always love when he comes and joins the show. All-Star game tonight. Enjoy it. Second half of the baseball season. We'll get back to Q's picks as well. Later on this week, as I mentioned, Corey Parson, Logan Holler, Timothy Moten, good-looking heavyweight fighter. We'll preview a couple fights coming up in Philly, boxing-wise, in our backyard. Have a couple more writers and some handicappers joining us. We encourage you guys to always keep it locked in. We also re-air the shows on demand. Marshall Time. Jonathan Marshall and his brother do a great job with the podcast. You got the Talking Hoops show as well. Midweek, Lloyd Mance's Insider Football. Mondays at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9, right here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game. So as always, Angel Martinez producing the show, keeping us on the air, keeping us locked in. You out there, you can still tweet at us. You can still comment as well, 727-858-6650. We always appreciate it. Have a wonderful Sports Tuesday. We will be back in the saddle tomorrow from 12 to 2. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.